It is the fourth model introduced in the 2025 Godzilla collaboration with Medarot S, sporting the likeness of the iconic Super Robot Kaiju that is also another equally as iconic rival to the legendary Godzilla himself. It is GZL03, Mecha Godziragna, with a mostly new kit of Hyper Laser, Thunder Missile, Thunder Claw, biped legs, and the leg ability of Heroic, which buffs all meta-force gained in any way applicable while in battle. Now, most certainly we've seen a handful of Godzilla's friends and or rivals along the way so far, including the legendary Mothra and Ghidorah themselves gracing their appearances in Medarot alongside the Big G. It certainly cannot be called a Godzilla collaboration if Mecha Godzilla certainly doesn't make an appearance, at least somewhere. And with the very powerful Thunder-based kit that it brings to the table, this model may not be nearly as fast or as potent as the big OG himself, but is still just as dangerous in every way that counts. Hyper Laser on the head part is an optic attribute skill that gets a times 1.5 damage and double damage bonus at 30% and 100% charge respectively. But Hyper Laser also has a couple extra caveats to it which make it hit notably harder than most any other kind of optic attribute skill. And it's the fact that it has a much higher base damage and some extra damage perks on top of that, at the cost that you're not able to dodge or defend in your cooldown. And additionally, this also means that you have a much lower heating and cooling because the attack is so much more potent as far as your damage output is concerned. Especially with the base power of almost 1800 by itself, having a low heat and cool in the high 400s means it is definitely going to take Mecha Godziragna some time to charge before he's able to open fire and just lay waste to anyone in his way. Thunder Missile on the right arm is a new skill being introduced into the game, but simply explained, it's just your basic gunpowder missile effect, but it has the thunder ailment added to it. So while it most certainly will still behave as an AoE type of attack, meaning it will damage all active parts on the target and spread the damage equally, it does also mean that when attacking the opponent, it will stop them cold with a thunder effect added to them. And that does also mean that they are not able to dodge while in that thunder stasis, and it also does buy you just a few extra seconds of time to kind of run back and even regroup while they're stalled on the field. Now, something that is also worth mentioning on AoE effects though is thanks to Silent Leader that was implemented a number of months ago, or even about a year or so ago at this point, it does also mean that AoE attacks can flush out enemies just as easily because they are damaging all parts on the opponent. So that means if you get lucky and fire one use of Thunder Missile, you not only would have likely flushed out the leader, but you also will have stunned them, which buys you just a few seconds, like I said, to regroup and just kind of plan your strategies accordingly. Thunder Claw on the left arm is another new skill basically in the same vein, where it's just your basic claw attack, which is a scattered AoE with a damage of one part and then two others randomly for extra damage, but this one also packs the thunder effect as well. So, much like Thunder Missile, upon attacking the target, you will be stunning them in place for a short period of time, able to buy you some time to regroup or replan your strategy relative to what you find. And given that this is a scatter effect that will damage parts at random, this means that you have a chance to attack the same part multiple times or spread your damage and really make it count, based on how you choose to attack the target. Now, it is also worth noting that scatter attacks also will eat multiple charges of defense-type skills. So if there is a shield that is active in play, guess what? That is 3 charges of that shield that is cut down, and they are stunned on top of that if they do not have some kind of ailment negation applied to them. Biped legs means that Mecha Godziragna will have relatively decent coverage across all terrains with relatively balanced terrain compatibility. And as far as his leg stats are concerned though, compared to most other models which will have some kind of very solid element of speed in some form or fashion, Mecha G here on the other hand trades almost all of his worthwhile speed between his mobility and his heat cool across all 3 of his parts for a much higher bulk. And as you see here, with a melee resist of 2044 and a shoot resist of 2073, it's going to be pretty hard to take this guy down because he's got some very solid damage reduction at his disposal. In trade of having a mobility of 783, which isn't terrible. You're not going to be the fastest thing on the field, but you're going to be in that nice little minimum sweet spot. but an evade of 742 means that Mecha Godziragna is definitely not going to be dodging anything soon. And that is most certainly compounded when he's packing on average heat cool stats between the high 400s to high 400s to low 500s, which means, like I said, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But as far as armor is concerned, though, he's packing over 6,600 for the head, almost 5,600 per arm, and just almost 5,700 for the legs. So while he's not fast, he's extremely chunky and just as equally bulky. So it's going to be really hard taking this Mecha Kaiju down anytime soon. All this being said, though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate Mecha Godziragna kind of a middle-of-the-road 6 out of 10. And being completely honest, compared to most of the other models that we've seen so far in this collaboration, I probably have to rate him on the lower end. Because while Thunder Missile, Thunder Claw, and Hyper Laser are all extremely powerful skills, and legs with that kind of bulk are also very good, it's a very strange kit, because Hyper Laser, and especially only 2 uses, means you have to time their uses extremely carefully. Now, while they do certainly synergize extremely well with Heroic, which means that you'll be getting a up to 30% boost to any Metaforce gained in any way possible. This includes Metaforce Charge, Metal Natures, or anything else of the like. It can synergize fairly well, but it does mean that you do have to kind of whack the enemy a few times before you actually start getting any charge. And that's assuming you're even using a Hunter or Sniper Nature Metal to really capitalize and synergize with them. And if you're fighting somebody that has a Stat Cleanse or Super Armor effect applied to self or across the team, the Thunder effect from both Thunder Missile and Thunder Claw is basically useless. As mixed parts, though, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at a 6.5 out of 10. While Thunder Missile and Thunder Claw will definitely have some very solid uses, being able to not only play as AoE or scatter skills with a Thunder effect to give them an extra perk, it is also worth noting that they are also heavy and also with extremely low heating pools, and their success stats aren't that better either, at 847 for Thunder Missile and 946 for Thunder Claw. And even Hyper Laser as well at 776 there for its success means there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be shooting pretty blind, and there's a good chance that you're going to be dodged or grazed, which will really sharply reduce your damage. Now, the biped legs with Heroic, even if the speed isn't the best thing on the table, having the bulk is still really good too, as it means you can really take a few hits without anything overly damaging you or breaking you easily. And the Heroic leg ability means that any Metaforce gained gets an extra boost just because you earned it.